Onto the highlight of the module, blockchain in digital identities. Let's look at some of the issues facing identity management. When it comes to identity management, identity theft has been a huge yet constant problem across the industry. Some examples are financial identity theft, social security identity theft, among others. The surge of data-driven companies such as Amazon, Facebook, Google, a lot of companies in today's world rely on data, has led to a surge of data breaches given the massive amounts of data held by companies no matter what the field. This most affects businesses whose business models are predominantly reliant on data collection or the selling of data, either through targeted advertisements or simple selling of data. One well-known data breach was the Cambridge Analytica data breach, where the company wrongfully gained access to over 50 million Facebook accounts so as to influence the American elections. While this is one of the well-known data breaches, there are tons of such occurrences that never reach the public eye. Identities play an important role in our world today. In the current identity management model, every company collects its required identity data for registration individually. Some of the common data collection points you have encountered include banks. How many forms did you have to fill before opening an account? Government ID and social security issues. Here, you didn't just have to fill forms, but you had to submit tons of documents. Email registration sites, hospital and health insurers, point of sale systems. In almost every system in today's world, a short form for your identity is filled. This form varies based on what the platform does. For instance, a bank requires highly verified data and therefore asks more questions than a point of sale system. Hospitals and health insurance will request tons of forms to assess your medical history, unlike a Twitter registration that just needs my email and phone number to open an account. However, the problem arises from the lack of control over our personal identity information. Once you fill a form or submit documents to verify identity, the data collected, in spite of it being about you, is not yours but belongs to the collector. We do not own our personal data, and we hardly give consent on how this data is shared from one party to another. Unless you call a 200-page terms and conditions document consent. How can we harness blockchains in identity management? Blockchain can be used to allow users to control their own personal information and decide what it is they share with organizations. Through private permissioned blockchains, verified actors can add records onto your blockchain and you personally control who you share your information with. In such a model, your identity is operated like a token, where you own your identity records the same way you own bitcoins. Just like bitcoins can be sent from one party to another, pieces of your identity can be sent to organizations like hospitals and banks by you whenever necessary. So long as you fill up your info once, you can use it multiple times. No point of numerous forms wherever you go. The only difference is that Bitcoin transactions result in transfer of ownership, but for identity blockchains, you share some of your info, but you keep your identity. We all know that blockchain is a distributed decentralized ledger. However, we can't just have our identities in a transparent digital database accessible by all nodes. To prevent this, data is encrypted and blinded after validation and stored into a blockchain that assures security and immutability of records. What is held on the blockchain is simply a public proof of private information. Nobody can see your data, but your transactional records are available. Healthcare is one of the data-heavy industries. The industry requires redundant information from patients across all industry players. Let's take a deeper look at healthcare. You have to fill a long form when applying for insurance. Then, insurance companies have to manually validate your information. You have to fill another long form before consultation at the hospital. Then, as if all that is not enough, To get a prescription at a pharmacy, another identification form is required. The blockchain solution to identity management. Imagine a world where identities are encrypted and stored into a decentralized ledger, and the information can be shared automatically to banks, hospitals, schools with the approval of the user. What blockchain does is it stores data securely in an immutable ledger, assuring identity security. Any middlemen, such as credential companies, who are mostly common in healthcare and insurance industries, are eliminated from the data value chain. Blockchains allow for interoperability of information among companies without the feeling of excessive forms and applications. Therefore, data is vetted once, stored into the distributed ledger, and it can be used many times. I understand that I might have confused you with the term interoperability. Interoperability is the property that allows for the unrestricted sharing of resources between different systems. In simpler terms, interoperability is a property of blockchain that allows for information or data to be shared across parties with less friction. This aspect is very useful in blockchain identity management, where identity information is required to be shared by the user to different organizations like banks, insurance firms, and hospitals. Nothing explains blockchain identities better than the trusted key model, where decentralized identities are employed. The model starts with the first-time registration, where a user signs up with an email address and a user-generated PIN number. This will respectively be the username and account password for the identity sharing process. 2. The user has to confirm the identity by scanning a government-issued ID, such as a driver's license, social security, or identity card, or even a passport, and the information is added onto your account automatically. A live photo is then used to confirm your identity. 3. Whenever you want to share your data information with an organization, you log onto the organization's data sharing point. Example is an online registration form. You can log in using your trusted key and share all required data automatically. Any additional data that you have to fill in is also added to your trusted key. This happens at any point where you have to add data to a form. After sharing this numerous times, your trusted key will have almost your entire identity information. Step 4. When you're physically available at any data sharing point, for example, if you happen to be filling in your information at a hospital automatically using your trusted key, the organization can ask you for your physical ID. Once they confirm it is actually you, the confirmation kicks up your trusted key identity ratings. This can happen repeatedly whenever you're physically available and a permissioned organization asks to see your physical identification form to confirm it is you. Such vettings and the rating that comes with it is stored in the blockchain, and the higher rating, it just shows how the higher rating, the more valid your decentralized identity. This is a nice way of getting accredited organizations to keep vetting, and the more you're vetted, the higher rating, and the more people can actually consider your information valid. This makes the entire system even more trustable over time. Lastly, all your identity transactions are stored onto the blockchain. Your personal data, however, is blinded, and only a proof of private information is available on the blockchain. Now you can seamlessly use trusted key for any identity sharing processes, and most importantly, you own your data, and the data has been vetted. So what are some of the advantages of blockchains in identity management? 1. Blockchain consensus algorithms solve the double spend problem. Remember the Bitcoin protocol. In the same way, blockchains can prevent double identities. Therefore, identity theft is prevented, as the same identity cannot be owned by two different people on the blockchain. 2. Interoperability. Blockchains allow for sharing of information between trusted organizations. Information is vetted once, but used many times. 3. Immutability and security. Security of personal information is secured. Information cannot be altered or deleted. People own their own personal information. To further enhance security, information is private as identity blockchains will contain a proof of private data. Information is always blinded and encrypted. Some of the real-world examples of identity management blockchain solutions are 1. Secure Key. Secure Key is verified me blockchain identity management system that is operational in Canada. It's a system that was developed on the Hyperledger Fabric business blockchain and allows for Canadians to share their personal information automatically with financial institutions. The second solution is edtech. This is a London-based blockchain company that is currently working with United Arab Emirates to provide digital passports for Dubai's airport. This could automate the identity process in airports, which is currently highly inefficient.